Hi, this is Trisha from Lemon Paper Lab. In this video, we are going to look at my pattern starter template J. This template is designed in a 1:1 ratio at 7200 pixels by 7200 pixels. This template will be available to download in my Patreon page. I also have this template and more in my Ultimate Pattern Maker Toolkit for Photoshop, which includes all of my Photoshop templates and actions to help improve your workflow when designing in Photoshop. And I will leave a link in the description below to both my Patreon page and this toolkit. Currently, I have the template open here in Photoshop. What you'll notice here in the layers panel is that we have a smart object here, and then under template is the various repeats of this pattern. To use this template, you can double click on this smart object. And then currently I have an example shape here that we can see in our template here. So let's go ahead and actually save this pattern. Here in my patterns panel, if you don't see your patterns panel, just go to Window, selecting Patterns here. I'm just going to hit this plus icon to save the pattern. And then we can see here in our swatch. To test this pattern, I am just going to create a new layer, and then I'm just going to turn off my template layer here. And then let's go ahead and create a solid color adjustment layer. We'll just use black for the moment, 0, 0, clicking on OK. And then let's go ahead and add a pattern adjustment layer. From here you can hit the drop down to find your pattern. I always like to just select it from my patterns panel here. Let's bring our color layer above, and then we'll create a clipping mask. Right click, create clipping mask. And then we'll go ahead and duplicate that color fill layer. Right click, duplicate layer. And then we're going to drag it below. And then this time I'm just going to double click, and then I'm just going to use white FFF. And then with this pattern fill layer, I'm going to scale it down to 50% just so we can see how it repeats. So with your colors, you could always change out the color of your pattern to see how it looks. So that is the example pattern that is with this template. I'm just going to shift click on these layers, Command or Control G to group it, and then we will just go test pattern here that we can turn off. So let's just turn our template layer back on, and then we will jump back into our smart object. What you'll notice here in this layer is that we have another object too and another template layer that you can turn on. So if we turn off this reference layer, we bring up this template layer. So I have another example here. So you can always go in, double click into this smart object and change what's in here, and then it is reflected here in this smart object. And then in order to actually see it in our template here, we need to save this smart object. So let's go ahead and save that, Command or Control S to save it. And then we'll jump into our template and we can see the updated design. So if we go ahead and save this pattern here and give it a name, clicking on OK. And then we can turn on our test section here, and then we can just see how our pattern looks. So this was our second pattern, this was our original pattern. And so that's what's fun with using a template like this, is that you can set up the basic template and then just kind of create different unique patterns with it. So let's go ahead and try one together here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off this test pattern layer. We'll bring back our template, and then we'll jump back into our object 1, and then I'm going to go back into our object 2, and then we can play around with our design here. Using the pen tool here, I am just going to create a simple shape, holding the shift key just to get a level line here, and then I'm just going to hit enter to finish off that shape, and then hitting the fill button, I'm just going to turn off our fill, and we are going to add a stroke. Maybe we'll make our stroke a little bit bigger, 200 here. We'll get our move tool, and then you can position it how you want here. And then let's just go ahead and save that and see how it looks in our pattern template. So I'm going to go Command or Control S to save it. We'll jump into our object 1, which has been updated, and we need to save this one as well. Command or Control S to save it. And then we'll jump into our template layer, and we can see that it has been updated. So now we can save this pattern, click that plus icon, and then let's turn on our pattern test here. We'll select our pattern layer, and then you can always give it a new color, just black. Maybe we'll make our background red. So we can see our design here, and then maybe I add something a little bit extra here and see how that looks with our design. So we'll just add another object. I'm just going to hit black, and then I'm going to access my ellipse tool, and then let's just try a little bit of a circle here at the end just to add another element. And in this case, we are going to get rid of our stroke because we just want the circle. And so let's just go ahead and save this. Command or Control S to save it. We'll go to our object 1, and then this one hasn't been updated. And here we can see there's just a little bit of a funky thing going on here. So let's jump back to this shape, select our shape layer, and make sure our fill is turned off here. Okay, we'll go ahead and save this. Command or Control S to save it. Jumping back into object 1. Okay, and then we'll save this. Command or Control S to save it. And then we'll jump into our template, and then we got to turn off our test pattern here, and then we can save our new pattern. And then we can turn on our test pattern again and test it. And then adding that dot just adds a little bit of variance to our pattern. And so as I look at this pattern, I think it would be cool if the dot was a different color, and that's really easy to do. We can just turn off this shape here. We'll go ahead and save this. Command or Control S to save it. Jumping into our object 1, Command or Control S to save it. Jumping into our template, we'll turn off that test pattern layer. We'll save this one as its own. And then I'm just going to click on this test pattern here. We'll select our color fill layer and our pattern fill layer, and I'm just going to duplicate those. Let's add white. We'll select that new pattern, and then here we'll select the original without the dots. We'll bring this back up. And so now I've created that pattern, but I've introduced a second color because you can easily save those components on their own to create this pattern here. So I can easily change out the color if I don't want it to be red. Maybe we make this color different here. So it's really nice when working with patterns, you can save out different elements so you can easily recolor them. So I hope you enjoy using this template. This is Trisha from Lemon Paper Lab. See you next time.